So I'm so fascinated by the slow motion punch shots. And like obviously you see this slow motion shot, you see like the spit flying out of your mouth. I'm curious how that shot is done. Do you actually take a punch and do they add like water to your mouth so it looks like you have more spit coming out?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, those are the real shots that you have to take because it's in slow motion. There's no way for you to fake it. In Creed 1, we had that iconic moment where, Sly kind of dead man walking, made me kind of like go ahead and take that real punch. But that's how you get those shots. So on this one, yeah, you do it like 2 times, and it's like, all right, we could do a little bit better than that. So you do put a little bit of water in, you know what I'm saying? Like,
is it a hard punch though? Is it like a legit punch?
Yeah, I mean, Florian would tell you he only gave me 50%, but it felt like a car crash. But the guy has some muscle. He's got some heat behind his punches.
Yeah, those scenes are amazing. Now, I've always wanted to ask an actor this. There's a baby in the film,
yes.
And it's actually in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. Whose baby is that? Do they hire like babies, and do the parents come in on set and like is it like? And I'm wondering like, do you actually build a bond almost? I always wonder how that works.
Working with babies in films is tough because it's just time. You're not allowed to have babies on set for too long. So. You do build a bond with the parents, for the babies that you have, for those scenes, but you might swap out the baby for somebody. Twins is the way to go. If you can get twin babies or twin boys and girls, both boys or both girls, it doesn't matter at that age, you can't really tell. You can dress them up how you want and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
But if the baby's crying in one of the scenes,
yeah.
How do they, does that end up getting written into the script because the baby's crying, or how do you get it to cry?
We're at the mercy of the baby. The baby runs us. Literally, like, the baby is number 1 on the call sheet. So we're really at the mercy of what we can do and what we can't do. Sometimes we're smart, we shoot it out first so we could be able to we don't have to worry about that stuff later on.
Yeah. Russell Hornsby has a great line in the movie where he says, the belt's not enough. And you have to have a narrative that sticks to the ribs. And I thought that was a brilliant line. I'm wondering, can you compare that line to being an actor in the sense of the roles you choose, in the sense of, you're very successful. I mean, you've made movies that have made a lot of money with Black Panther and things like that. But do you think about that narrative of idea of like, what's my narrative? What's sticking to the ribs?
It's something that I really want to. I am selective with the projects that I decide to do, and I'm thoughtful about when everybody's looking years from now and you look back at it, I want it to say something. So I do think about that. I don't know exactly what that is, and I'm constantly figuring it out as the projects go, but I want to put together a nice body of work that people could be, I could be proud of.
And last question for you. One of the things I love about these movies are obviously the montages, the training montages. And I'm wondering what those are like to shoot, in the sense of, obviously there's arcs to the montage. You're watching your character struggle, then succeed. Like, what are those like to shoot? Do they feel as fast-paced as we're watching them? Are they tedious?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Honestly, like, you're on this one, it was tough. We're in New Mexico. We were shooting, in the desert, and we had limited time. So it was like independent filmmaking. We were popping around to different like stations, knocking stuff out here, knocking stuff out there. Like, that's the type of filmmaking I'm used to that I really enjoyed. So it's tough and rigorous, but we kind of like loosely plot it out, and then we go after it and just go get it.
Man, you did a great job.
Congratulations
to you, Michael.
Appreciate
Always
it, man.
good to see you.
Always good to see you too.
One of the staples of the Rocky films and the Creed films are the training montages, and I'm curious what it was like for you to be on the other end of that, like doing the training, and then for you to do training scenes with Ivan Drago. So for you first, what was it like to be on the opposite side of that?
Well, it felt nice and relaxed, I felt a little sorry for him, actually, for most of it, because they pushed him a lot, and I know what it's like having to do it on film. You get this adrenaline charge where you keep going forever, and towards the end, he was so tired, he was like, you were just running on fumes at the end, but I was impressed by all the stuff he did, and I remember doing my training montage where Stallone was pushing me, and he did a great job. And it's tough to beat things like films like Rocky IV. How do you beat that training montage? But I think you guys did. So
I think so too. Yeah.
Was there a particular element to because the training montage is cool because you basically get to work out on film. So is that your workout for the day when you do the training montage?
Basically, of course. I mean, we had a lot of boxing stuff. What we did for Victor is like focusing on the raw power, because that's what like giving me the edge over Creed. The power, the size that I have. So yeah, I was just smashing weights around, eating those weights like crazy, and yeah, I think we have a good montage here.
To sit across from you is an absolute honor, and I've always wanted to ask you about this because obviously the very famous scene where the Apollo Creed moment where you punch him and obviously he dies. And I'm wondering, when you filmed that moment for Rocky IV, what do you remember about shooting that scene and that punch specifically? Like, what, do you remember the direction you got and kind of what that moment was like emotionally for you?
Well, first of all, I was upset having to kill him because I was a fan of Carl Weathers, of the character, and I was just a kid, and so I wasn't looking forward to it. And what I do remember is that me and Stallone had practiced for 5 months for our fight, which is a 15-rounder. But the fight with Apollo was very short. It was like one round when I'm just walking around flexing, and he hits me a few times. And the second round, I just kind of unload on this guy. And Carl had never seen me. He never met me before. So I think he was in the ring, and suddenly he comes this huge Swedish guy, all yoked up, ready to beat him up. And he wasn't, he was running for real. I think, he was a bit scared. I felt that, and because I was a fighter, it's like you feel that. And I think it was just those punches, that one punch that I threw, that one left hook. It was pure luck. Stallone told me when they were looking through the footage, in those days it was all on film, they're looking through the raw footage, and there was one shot where, as I hit him, when he snaps his head, there's a big flare from a light behind his head.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, it has that kind of almost surreal, almost spiritual kind of religious feeling to it. And then he does that slow fall where Sly had him fall. And I know there was great work on Carl's part when he has to fall and hit the canvas with his head, because he can see the head going. So it's a cool moment, Well, it's kind of brutal, but
it's an iconic moment in film for sure. I wanted to know how they did the scenes where it was POV from Creed's perspective of you just kind of punching at him. Are you just punching at the camera? Like how was that awkward to shoot that?
It was very awkward to shoot because I was standing right in front of the camera, no one in there, and just do shadow boxing. But you had to bring all this ferocity and those emotions, right? And it was pretty hard to do that when no one is standing in front of you, just the guy with the camera. So I was punching crazy, hitting the camera a couple of times.
Really?
Yeah, throwing the camera into the face of the cameraman a couple of times. But yeah, I think, like you said, cool scenes.
Yeah, well, your outfit looks amazing, by the way. I love that.
We look nice together. We look like we're in a prom.
Yes, I completely agree.
Or like semi-formal.
We should do prom photos.
Should.
Could you say your name and where you're from?
Yeah, Kevin McCarthy, Washington, D.C. So this is something I've always fascinated me about filmmaking. When you have a baby on set, obviously the parents are there, but do you actually form a bond with the baby since you're acting as if you're the mother? I wonder how that works when you're acting in a scene.
Yeah, it turns out the coolest thing is to have a baby that you can return to its parent. That is really fun.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is when you have an infant on set, you can't just have one, you have to have doubles. So we actually worked with twins. So at any given point there was maybe 4 babies. And that's really great because when one baby is too irritable, then you just give that baby back and take the twin baby that hopefully has just been fed and washed and it's happy to be with you. You do form a bond. I mean, some people do tricks for example, you could give the mother and the father or the parents, the moms, the dads, you can give them an article of clothing of yours that smells like you, and then the baby can sleep with it because it's so scent oriented for them, so they can sort of get used to you. But yeah, you try to spend as much time as you can.
I was wondering how that works. It's so interesting to me. And
it's a joy too. It's really fun, and because Amara goes through different ages in this, we had different babies for those times, and I formed a relationship with all of them in a way.
One of the beautiful things about your character is that not only is her dialogue and the things she says to Michael's character, but also the singing. And I think the beauty of singing is that it can get out emotions and things like that maybe you couldn't get out through dialogue. And I'm wondering, Bianca's voice and the way she sings, and what do you feel about the way she sings? And do you feel like more emotion comes through that you can't get through in dialogue?
Yeah, I think that she's someone for whom music is so significant because there are things that she can express in that space that she can't express otherwise. She's somebody that beautifully is really guarded, and her guard drops a bit when she makes music. It's been such a joy to play her because I've gotten to write original music and perform that, which is a side of me that I frankly didn't really know existed in that way until I started playing Bianca, and so it's been really fun to access that. It's mildly terrifying, which I love.
You know, one thing that I love about your career are the roles you've chosen so far. I think the narrative of your career has been amazing. And there's a great line that Russell Hornsby says to Michael B. Jordan in the film about the heavyweight belt isn't enough. You need a narrative that sticks to the ribs.
Yeah.
And I was curious, like with roles you choose, I know it's kind of like, it might be hard to look back on them now in the sense of, do you look at a narrative structure that you're creating as an actress and the roles you play and kind of what you're trying to put out in the world?
I think so, because I've been working long enough now that I'm sort of like, okay, what am I doing? I think when you first begin, you're sort of throwing things at the wall, literally, and seeing what sticks. And sometimes a narrative is built for you. You look suddenly at the breadth of the work that you've done, and you figure out that there's a through line. And for me, I feel like something that's really important to me is representation and feeling like not getting boxed into a space because of race or gender. I really like the idea that just like all of us can tear those walls down and allow ourselves to be as expansive as we are as humans, because sometimes we can get boxed into spaces, and I hate that idea. So yeah, I think that that's something that's really important to me, and hopefully always sort of breaking new ground. And as I said, I like to do things that scare me, so that's something that I'm always kind of looking for when I choose projects as well.
Well, you're an amazing actress. I love all the
Thank
work
you.
you do, and
Oh,
congratulations to you. Always
Thank you
awesome to
so
talk to you, by the
much.
way. The training montages.
Yes.
I'm curious, do you shoot those linearly? And also on top of that, when you shoot the fight scenes, since they're getting more beat up in the scenes, do you shoot that in order so it stays within this context?
Yeah. I'll start with the fight scenes. Yeah, you do with the fight scenes. It's easier for the actors too. Sly, who's done this a million times, recommended that we shot all the fight stuff first. That way, during the pre-production, they can learn all the choreography and not learn it during the drama stuff later on, because then they'll be trying to work in drama and learn choreo. And he's like, get it out the way. Everything else dramatically you get to focus on. So we do it in order, and then each round, we go round by round, section by section.
Because the makeup gets worse.
It gets worse and worse throughout, and then if you need to pick up something, you can just go back to a round or round 6 or something and say, we thought of something last night or whatever the next day to like create or bring into it. So yes, with the montages you don't, so it's a little tougher. So you have to like pinpoint things, but this one we try to as much as possible, because Mike actually, ironically enough, got bigger during the process of the workout. So he had his trainer Corey, who their eating plan and everything was sort of insane. So he started off a little smaller, then we helped with baggier clothes, and then as it kind of go throughout, you kind of see him bulk up, man, and just seeing that dude doing push-ups between every take, and then have to do it on screen, and it's just like intense. And so we try to keep it as linear as possible, but there's always an arc in a Rocky montage. You know, it's like he starts off, he's struggling, he gets up, you think he's about to, then he drops, then he comes up, and then everyone cheers.
That's awesome. Well, I have so many questions for you. So one of the things I want
sure.
to ask you specifically, I love the camera shot of Creed's POV as Florian just hitting at him.
on him.
I was curious how you shoot that in the sense of like, how do you make it look like he's still landing punches when Mike's not there? I mean, the camera's right in front of him, right? And did he hit the camera ever?
Yeah, Mike Heathcote, I love you, man. He's our camera op. He took a few punches in this thing. That one, yes, we did the corner thing twice.
So cool.
And he got punched. The camera got hit. It was like, it's only, and then that's when we learned don't do a jab. Keep them on hook so we can just go side to side, because we do a jab at the camera, it catches them. But no, he got hit definitely a few times, and then, I mean, Flo is huge, man. So like, you know, he's trapped in the corner with a camera, and then as he's punching, he has to know the choreography. So the cameraman's like, all right, this is when I go left, and when I go right. And then even in the ring, we do a lot of like crossing the line and moving the camera with the actors. And so he had to study the choreography like the actors did, and know every step, because if he's in the wrong place, somebody could get hurt. So it was intense, man, the whole shooting a fight. It's like a hardcore musical.
Yeah, it's so well done. Now, I always wanted to know how the slow-mo punch moments work. So in the sense of, you have a shot where like Michael or somebody gets hit in slow-mo, you see their face turn sideways, the spit flies out of their mouth.
They have to get hit.
When you're doing that moment, so they get hit one, but also they're aware they're making a slow-mo shot there. Do you like, this might be a weird question, but do you put like water in their mouth to make it look like they're
yeah, a little bit for the spit, but naturally when you have a mouthpiece in your mouth, they have it there already. And so what we do for the slow-mo shots, they warm up a bit beforehand and already, you know, a little bit of choreo so they can get into it. And then we go into the slow-mo just so it all feels real. And then, there's a little bit of water. Sweat is natural sweat most of the time, but sweat. And then, and they have to get hit. So it's like, you know, you have to go at a certain percentage, and depending on the frames or how intense the slow-mo is, which we went really intense. So if it's the slower it is, the more impactful they have to punch because you need to feel it. And so, yeah, Mike took 3. His takes were 3.
Wow.
Drago was 9, so I owe him 9 punches.
Jeez. Last thing for you real fast, I think the trailers for this movie were brilliant.
Thank
the
you.
musical choices were great. I'm a big Kendrick
DNA,
guy, so hearing
yes.
DNA. Was that a choice that you can make? Because the editing of the trailer with the punches, the bump with the
Yep,
DNA, is that something that you oversee
The
those?
DNA one, yeah, I had a heavy hand in that. So did Mike. I remember they came to our trailer and we were talking about it, and I had written DNA in a script that was gonna be his walkout song.
Oh, wow.
And so instead I changed it to Jaden Smith, obviously an icon. But then we wanted to use that for the trailer, and then we told him we want to get snip and pieces of it, and we want to reveal Drago at the end. We want it to be Creed, and then at the end you're like, whew, boom, and you see the Drago, and you're like, just to give the fans a little something. So
awesome.
no, it was a nice, great collaboration between us and the studio and Annapurna to really try to create that, because we knew people were stepping into it. In our first visual piece out into the world, we wanted to feel like it was for the culture, you know what I mean, and for us. And so Kendrick did that, and it also fit with the themes, and they kept it alive throughout the trailer. So I'm excited.